I can't even relate to it anymore. It's completely gone from my head. I don't recognize that person.
Jonathan, how did you find Carnivore?
Yeah, such a great question, Dave. Uh, but before I get into answering your question, I just want to thank you for everything you do. Storytelling, I see it being such like a fundamental part of being a human, and it's just one more way we as carnivores can start getting back to something that's natural for us. Uh, and I thought maybe I'll give before I want to go back all the way back to start to get like the whole picture. But before that, I want to give like a quick summary of like the carnivore bit, I guess, so people know what they're up to or what's coming. Uh, so I'm 23. I've been carnivore for about 1.5 years, uh, and the big three, I guess, for me, things that went away, the issues that got fixed, is severe IBS, anxiety, and depression. 1.5 years ago, you would barely even see me walk out of my house. I was so isolated. And I definitely wouldn't come on an interview like this, send an email to volunteer to something like this. Mm-mm-mm. Never in my life. Uh, but and one interesting thing, or like the interesting part here, is also that I didn't know about you guys on the internet doing this carnivore thing. I was just like testing it out on my own, like changing my diet to fix my gut, really. Uh, and then I found out about you through my mom, actually. Like, I think she'd gotten some TikTok videos up or something. And then she told me, oh, maybe you want to check out those people doing the same thing as you. And then I think I found like Bart K first, you know him, right? So, and then Anthony Chafee, Ken Berry, those kind of people. Uh, so I don't really need, with my history here, I don't really need like the justification, I guess, because I didn't even, since they tried to claim it's just placebo, But in my case, how can you say that? I didn't even know about this being a thing. So I don't need that sort of justification, but I've always been the kind of person who loves knowing the why. Like, why does this work? Um, but anyway, let's start from the beginning, I guess. Uh, so ever since I was little, uh, like my mom's told me that when I was still wearing diapers, it was either like spray painting the walls brown, or they had to like grab my legs and like try to press it out. It was like always those extremes when it came to me going to the toilet. It was always a problem. Uh, and then that just persisted. Didn't really get better. Started at school. I was always uh, like in primary school as well. I was always like the shy, insecure little boy, and I had a lot of anger in me. They actually had to like a lot of times take me out of class and put me like in a separate room. Sometimes I was even like so bad they sometimes locked me in there. I don't know if how legal that is, but they did. And I was on the way when they like dragged me out. I was biting them, like the teachers and stuff. But it's yeah. Uh, I don't know what was in here, but I think I was really just afraid. Uh, like the second, I think if I try to think back, I don't remember that much of those years, but if I try to think back, it's probably just every time the teacher like pointed to me and wanted me to say something in front of class. I think that's when my mind started racing and something went wrong, and I just and they had to take me out because I just went crazy. But as I said, I don't remember that well. I'm just trying to, from what I remember, what I can recall. Uh, And then, started getting older, like 10, 12, and I started having uh, issues with my weight as well. I started becoming pretty big and round, uh, and that didn't really help when I was already pretty insecure, and I live in Norway, and we don't really eat much pasta or that sort of stuff, but it's a lot of bread and potatoes still, so it's not really that much better, right? Uh, uh, but I mean, and we made all the food, dinner, and everything. It was made at home, like from scratch with uh, real ingredients or whatever you want to call it. Some sort of meat, potatoes, like yeah, just regular meals. Not really much takeout. It might have gotten worse, like a little. But I mean, that's when it started escalating, like the amount of takeaway being around here as well. We usually get here in Norway, we usually get all that sort of stuff later. We don't have most of like the takeout places that exist. I see existing elsewhere. We still
Oh,
have them,
you
but
mean like if a fast food place opens in America or Australia, you don't see it for a long time, for many years
yeah,
until.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Like years. It takes years. Exactly. Uh, but yeah, so towards the end of primary school, I started fattening up, getting real good and round, uh, and that didn't really help my with my insecurities. Uh, and it was just how it was. I don't know. I was unlucky. It just happened. Didn't really think much of it, and then kept growing both in years and size. Uh, uh, when I was, what's it called? Like when you're the school you're in when you're like 14, 15, that kind of.
junior high school or middle school?
Yeah, okay, yeah. Because then it was like pretty much. I had some friends, but we were those people who just kept to ourselves, sat like in a corner, even though we were friends, we really just sat on our phones, like playing games and that sort of stuff. I guess, didn't really know each other that well because we connected through just playing games, I guess. And we started playing like computer games as well and that sort of stuff. Didn't really have much of a life outside of that, and I struggled with like concentrating at school. I like yeah, all that sort of stuff, and it just kept getting worse and worse. It's as if I sat in the classroom and heard everything, but 2 seconds after, it's gone. It's I don't, but for some reason I've always it's probably because I have quite a smart mom, so uh, I've always kind of still managed to get through school quite easily. I don't know why. It's just I have sort of that brain where everything gets placed uh, in shelves, and I can like go look for the information I need and just pull out that shelf. Oh, now I need this. Here I have every single piece of information I need for this thing if the question comes up. That's like, for some reason, that's just how it works in here. So I managed to get through school quite easily, but I was always quite lonely, had some friends here and there, but didn't really manage to like keep up with the friendships, and like so it ended up like cutting off at some point always, so I always had to learn how to get through stuff on my own and figure out everything on my own because I didn't really have anyone to do it with, and so which I mean, I've come out of it being someone who's very comfortable in my own company. I guess I can entertain myself quite easily with stupid jokes and bad humor. My family gets kind of sick of me sometimes with that sort of stuff. And then in high school, I started having even like the stomach stuff, like the gut issues. They started getting so bad. I was spending like it was a joke in my family, like, oh, we can never know when we get to go out of the door when we're going to do something because Jonathan's stuck in the bathroom for hours. We always have to wait for him, and yeah, always took like half an hour extra before we could get uh, out of the house to go on a trip or something because I was stuck there and like pressing on. So like IBS sort of stuff, constipation, pretty bad. Um, I know, like I've been bonding with the toilet for a couple of hours every day, you know. And I started getting hemorrhoids, like as if I'm like an old person stuck stuck in the hospital, you know. It's uh, like hemorrhoids, it's hurting and bleeding and all that sort of stuff. And I started getting more angsty, like depressed. I just couldn't get I really wanted to do stuff, but I just couldn't get myself to like go talk to someone or do what I wanted. And that, yeah. So this time I was uh, going like I'd always been playing drums and stuff. So I'd at this time I was going further down the route of like exploring music, expressing myself through that. And at that time, it was really the only way I knew how to express myself. Yeah, so I started going down that route, and I was thinking I really wanted to like make this my career and that sort of stuff. But how are you gonna do that if you can't even talk to someone? Like, so I ended up just doing it on my own. I mean, that's fun and all, but and I was it was really dark, the like what I was writing, because I sing and that sort of stuff. I wrote the lyrics, and right, it was really dark. I have the notes still. I've gone through them at some points, and it's really I don't even I can't even relate to it anymore. You know, it's completely gone from my head. I don't recognize that person. Uh, but it's probably, I mean, I've learned a lot from being through all those things. Of course, um, it's made a stent in me. But yeah, I'm just trying to like give you a picture of how bad it was, and I was sort of starting to like, especially towards like 2023. That's like the year where everything started to get really bad. Like it started escalating, like all the issues I had, like the severity of it. Uh, and I started isolating myself, cutting out people from my life. I started treating people around me, my family, really bad. I was just angry. If I didn't end up finding this carnivore thing, I'm not sure I would still be here, to be honest. That's how bad it was at some point. And yeah, I started cutting out people, treating people badly. You know, I don't know how to explain it. I never went to like the doctor or psychologist with these things. I just wanted to keep to myself. I didn't want help. I always wanted to want to live, if that makes sense. I wanted to feel good, but I just couldn't. There was I had no explanation, and but I also didn't want to talk to anyone about it. I didn't want help at the same time, you know? It was I don't know if I was ashamed or I just couldn't get myself because the mental health was so bad. I couldn't get myself to do these things. So I don't know. This thing I'm going to say now, I'm not sure if it has like a diagnostic name or anything, but I sort of started creating this world inside my head, like in line with like the music thing, right? My creativity, my creative mind. I started kind of making this world in my head, creating a different character for myself. a really dark character, but of course, I was very confident. So like something uh, where like a different world I could live in, because this world was too much for me to deal with. So I was like completely disconnected from everything around me. Uh, when I was talking to people, I was always in between all my words. I went, and then someone would say something to me, maybe something that mattered a lot to them. And then I would sit there like stare into the abyss. And afterwards I said, oh, sorry, what did you just say to me? I like it didn't go in. It just went. It didn't even go in and out the other side. It just went right over me. And yeah, I started having like sleep paralysis. Yeah, I started having that as well. And then like when I laid down and I felt like I was locked, I physically couldn't move, uh, and I just saw like this. It was like I was hallucinating because I saw these like dark figures standing above me, like threatening me and that sort of stuff. And I started having like those sort of hallucinations like throughout the day and like at waking up at night as well and that sort of stuff. And I slept really bad. Uh, yeah, skin issues as well. I had really bad acne. I mean, the list of things, of problems I have, it's impossible to really remember all of it. It's so long, and I keep like remembering and discovering new things that where I realize, like for example, I hear some other carnivore on like social media, YouTube or something, saying, "Oh, I noticed this thing went away," and then I realize, wait, I used to have that. Like, for example, I used to have a pollen allergy, gone. I used to always get cold sores in the winter. No, no more.
Mm. So, what was it that when you were having all these issues, what was it that made you go, okay, well, I'm going to try and change my diet?
So basically, in late summer 2023, so I was living in England at the time, studying music production, living for myself, and then I had the worst like IBS attack in my life. It was like if you can imagine like a wolverine being in the inside of your guts, like scratching while also having like a bouncy castle being inflated in your insides as well. Um, on the inside of your stomach at the same time as this Wolverine going like this. That I looked pregnant, like, and it was so bad. It wasn't possible to live with this stuff. I didn't sleep for I think like 2 nights, and I just realized I had to do something about this stuff. Uh, and my intuition, I always try to think or go after my intuition. So I thought it has to be something I'm eating, uh, and I started uh, like thinking about it. I realized, hmm, is there something ate that day that I don't normally eat? I wasn't really eating. Uh, I wasn't really eating like a lot of ultra processed stuff. I was eating quite clean, I guess, and I realized there was one thing I hadn't had in a while. I had that day. It was an apple. And then I went a couple of days and I tested a little piece of apple. It came right back. So I started connecting the dots, seeing, oh, if I have this thing, this happens. And then I started just really listening to my body, like a lot of carnivores say they end up doing. I started, before this. So my diet at this point, uh, I did actually manage to lose some weight because I thought that would help my like previous to this. I thought it would help my confidence, and it definitely did in the short term. Uh, but I fell into like the calorie counting stuff. And of course, when you start thinking about the calories, what's low calorie? You know, fruits, vegetables, that sort of stuff, yogurt, chicken. Yeah, not a lot of nutrition, but that's not what I was thinking about. I was thinking about I want to look better, I want to feel better, but it didn't last. Uh, yeah, so I just for a long time, maybe like 1 2 months, I just tried back and forth, like uh, putting in things in my diet, taking them out, seeing how I feel, and then I just naturally sort of landed on this thing that people apparently call the carnivore diet. I was eating fish, eggs, uh, meat, and butter, really.
And at what point did you start to realize that the IBS was going away, the anxiety was getting better, that kind of thing?
Like all I wanted, all I was thinking about in the beginning was really I needed relief from like the IBS stuff. Like I couldn't live with that. And then months went by. I was still sort of like just it took all of my time. It was all consuming, but I didn't have much else to do. Or I did actually have some pretty cool music production plans with people, but I couldn't. Like, it just wasn't possible, and I couldn't get myself to do it. Uh, but I think suddenly, just maybe 1.5 months in, 2 months, something like that, when I started getting closer and closer and closer to this pure carnivore thing, suddenly this brain fog that I wasn't even aware of it, kind of, it just lifted. It was gone. And then I felt so good. I woke up ready to go, like full of energy. I just felt good all of a sudden. And I started calling my family, which I hadn't really been doing.
The IBS started clearing up, you started feeling better, um, and so how have you settled into eating? What's your menu like each day?
Okay. Uh, yeah, I eat only once a day, really, sometimes more, but I usually don't feel hungry more than once. It's a pretty big meal. I eat, I don't actually like steaks that much, so I eat ground meat or ground lamb most of the time, or goat. I prefer that over beef. I buy it from a local farmer. Then I eat loads of butter with it, maybe a couple of eggs, uh, and sometimes I substitute that with fish. Yeah.
And, things have been going well, how have people reacted to this way of eating?
Yeah. In the beginning, it was sort of. I think they people thought I was crazy, but at the same time, they also noticed the difference. Suddenly, I was alive. There was you could see my eyes shining, my skin was glowing, just my old personality. Uh, so I guess that sort of made them not focus as much on the diet part, that they could see this stark difference in me. But it does. It's different from person to person. Some people just, oh, you get bored of it and that sort of stuff. And I say, you know what's actually boring? Going around with all those issues. I don't want any of that. That's what's really boring.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so do you feel like this is something that you just stick with forever now?
Yeah. So I never like to like talk in absolutes. Like you never know. If I discover something else, just that's just out of principle, I guess. Uh, but the way I feel now, absolutely, there's no reason to go back. I don't miss variety. I don't look at food that way anymore. It's just it's nourishment. It's fuel. That's what food is for. And I feel so good. I'm an entire different person. I can finally live my life the way I want and actually achieve what I want in life. So I'm very happy I discovered this stuff so early in life. At only well, I was 22 at the time.
Nice. So, how has this impacted your creativity at all? Like you told me you're doing music. Has it made you kind of more excited about the music that you're doing?
That's a difficult one. I guess it's sort of been so far quite the opposite because the music thing was more that I didn't know how to express myself another way. And it was all about like the dark stuff inside me. And now that that's all gone, I still enjoy playing music for myself, playing piano and singing and that sort of stuff. And I guess I can use it in a creative way with something else. So maybe someday I find inspiration in it. But at the moment, I feel so disconnected from the things that made me do the music thing, like all my dark thoughts and expressing that it's kind of uh, gone away a bit. Yeah.
Well, that's good that you're disconnected from the dark parts of it, definitely. Yeah. And so I guess that means you are actually, you're spending more time like with other people now and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
And I'm at the moment I'm taking classes in biology and chemistry and a little bit more of like the advanced math stuff. And I'm planning on like in August going into livestock sciences.
Wow, interesting. So what your ultimate goal is to do what?
Well, yeah, I want to spend my life working on making the livestock part of agriculture better, I guess. Making sure we don't do too much of the uh, what should I call it, B word, the things that have been creeping into the feedlots, and yeah, I don't know, help farms go more towards regenerative agriculture, that sort of stuff, I guess.
Very nice. So knowing what you know now, if a friend said to you, "Okay, I want to try the carnivore diet. What do I need to do?" What advice would you give them?
Oh, that's an interesting one. Uh, First of all, I would want to focus on them doing something that works for them, something where they can stick to it. If you want to keep cheese, I don't eat cheese, but if you want to have it and it works for you, I don't care. We have a lot of people like try, or not a lot, but there's always the people who try to discourage you because, oh, you're not doing the perfect way, and you have to do only beef and that sort of stuff. But do whatever works for you, like dairy, if you want to keep that. And also, I mean, I see most people give the advice of going slowly into it. That's probably a good idea. So you don't get stomach upset, all of that. But I mean, if you really want to go for it, just go for it. If you're that sort of personality who has to like go all in or not, all or nothing, uh, and also educate yourself, know your why. Why are you doing this? That's what's going to make you stick to it. And if people try to discourage you, don't let it get to you. That's what I would say.
Very nice. So, Jonathan, if people want to reach out to you, do you have any social media or any way of getting in contact?
Yeah, of course. I think I put it like here, my tag, right? So Norse Carnivore, Norse.
No worries. So I'll link to your socials in the show notes. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much for coming on today, Jonathan, and sharing your story. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, Dave.